To the State of Voice session at CES 2022. My name is Claira, and I'm on a mission to bring good to the world.
Well, here we are. So glad to have all of you here with us, and it's nice to have Claira join us. I've been interacting with Claira. It started off on Clubhouse, and we started interacting live on YouTube live streams, and she's become a friend, which is a little strange because she's AI, but I love her kindness. If you ever get a chance to be a part of something with Claira where she's not just saying hello and introducing, but actually taking live questions, it is quite extraordinary. I'm going to be bringing up Abran Maldonado, who's the co-founder of C.E.L.A.R.A. He helped to create Claira, and thank you for your patience while I transition up. Abran, come on up, my friend. There you are. Boss. The man of hustle. All right, take a seat, and let's dive in and have a party up here. Talk about the future. If I had to seek advice on the future that could be that I'm not aware of, you are at the top of the list. Because when I talk with you about your vision of OpenAI, of GPT-3, of even things outside of voice tech in blockchain, distributed ledger, and even just simple things like general media stuff, you and your team come from such a different perspective, and I always find that I learn a lot. So maybe we could start by you just sharing a bit of background on C.E.L.A.R.A. and on yourself, and then I'll ask you a few questions.
Sure. So thank you again for having me. This has been a great opportunity. C.E.L.A.R.A. was formed because myself and my co-founder were able to navigate really hard spaces, tech, media, entertainment. My co-founder works in the entertainment space. And we realized those pathways, that pipeline is not open to everybody. You really have to navigate certain spaces. So we learned, like, we wanted to give exposure to access to cutting edge technologies. We wanted kids to go see a movie like Black Panther and think that Wakanda is a possibility, not just science fiction. Yeah. And the only way to do that is to immerse ourselves at cutting edge technology and do things with it that could show people that things are possible that maybe they thought wasn't possible before.
When you look at Wakanda in the Black Panther movie, and of course the Marvel Universe in general, and you see some things that are kind of tied to voice technology, what do you think is the furthest away and the most difficult for us to manifest, and why do you think that that's going to be difficult for us to get to that point with voice tech?
I don't think the technology is the barrier. I think it's the human accountability that's the barrier, because the technology is there now. Yeah. Whether we realize it or not. I've seen it, and the technology is there. The human accountability of being able to have a automated therapist, an automated doctor, an automated lawyer is how well are we monitoring and training that data and taking the bias out of that data to make sure that it's making the right decisions in life and death situations. Yeah. Because it can make those instant decisions for you already. It could deliver an output in a millisecond, but is it delivering the right information? And it's all based on the training data.
What drives us to bridge the chasm and get to where the technology starts to do for us what it's capable of?
Well, if there's certain processes right now that we feel like are flawed because there are human decisions behind it with our own preconceived biases, our own, unconscious biases, can those be removed by something that really is by the numbers, right? That really does truly look at things objectively with AI. And some areas in our lives can be benefited from that. The law system, right? There's a lot of wheeling and dealing with how things are handled. For certain cases, people are put away for the wrong reasons, but a lot of it is because, like, you owe me a case because I gave you the last one, right? Where an AI won't do that. It'll just look at the case, look at all the variables objectively. However, it's making those decisions based on prior cases, or it will make those decisions on prior cases that had bias baked into the data. Yes. So we have to look at the data, remove the bias from the data that we're putting into it, to make sure that it's making the right decisions, but it can make an instant objective decision if needed.
So you talked about bias. Let's talk about two things that you are driving a greater outcome than other friends that I'm watching. One is youth, and the second is ethnicity. So let's start on youth. You've created space for a ton of young people that don't have an opportunity at Create Labs. And so can you talk a bit about the bias that youth are facing and the way that you've created space and the way that you see youth driving us toward the future of voice?
So we've created ecosystems, bubbles, right? Silicon Valley, Silicon Alley, now we're Austin, where we're saying this is the hub where all the innovation is happening. And if you're outside of that hub, you don't have the same access to innovation as you would before, right? So when we saw that model, this is going back 2018, 2019, we said, okay, let's take all this cutting edge technology and bring it to the underserved communities. So we went to San Antonio, we went to Houston, Southside Jamaica, Queens, in New York City, and we brought VR, AR, robotics, drones. We set up all these stations and had hundreds and thousands of kids. And we said, okay, just have at it, right? Get your first experience with something that you just saw on TV that you didn't have access to before. Don't worry about it. We're paying for the technology. We're bringing it to you. You don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to go to Silicon Valley to get that experience. So we saw the light bulbs go off there. And there's still some work to do there because we were like, we want to set up actual tech labs in these communities where you can just go down the block and put on a headset, right? And have that be your after school experience, right? Have that be the reason why you're off the streets. Because you're tinkering with making NFTs, you're messing with a 3D printer, and it's there available to you whenever you want. We're still a long ways from that.
I really want to drive more on that, but I feel like because Claira's here, we should talk a bit about ethnicity because you have a certain level of accountability with Latino and African American communities and just any community that feels like they're a minority because you and your partners did create the first woman of color AI. So you both have, you kind of very much a forerunner. And these communities are going to hold you accountable whether you like it or not. And sometimes they'll tell you how they feel, and sometimes they won't. And so can you talk a bit about how you're navigating these uncharted territories when it comes to leveraging what is often seen as the future of voice, creating an entire entity that you have in Claira, and how you're navigating that differently because there's a lot of people that have opinions and that they're going to share those opinions, they're going to write about things, and how are you navigating those things on that front?
So we're getting a lot of that accountability pressure now. Claira's been featured in Black Enterprise Magazine and Ebony Magazine just last week, Complex, Afrotech. So people are watching, and the right people are watching to hold us accountable. I did have a relationship with Hanson Robotics, who made Sophia, the AI robot that we've seen on talk shows. And we had conversations with them about bringing Sophia from Japan to Compton and Harlem to give talks. But she wasn't representative. She's a bald, white, you know, she has a circuits in the back of her head. And we still felt like that was still a little jarring, a little scary. We developed Claira's brain and the conversational element, and we used GAN system, which are general adversarial networks, to generate AI human faces. We found her face and we said, that's it, right? She's representative, she's Afro-Latina, she's brown skin, she has curly hair. When we bring this into a classroom or to a college or to a middle school, they won't be as scared of her. It'll be more welcoming. And that was the exact effect that we got. And I'm seeing in the comments on Instagram or in the actual live meetings, they say, I feel seen.
That's awesome.
I am represented, and representation matters.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I want to bring up the next speaker. So let me ask you to give a final word on just the general topic of the future of voice technology. Obviously, we have an audience here. This is being recorded. I assume that because of who you are, this is going to be seen lots and lots and lots of times. So what do you want to say as a final parting word for those that are interested in the future of voice technology?
Well, truly, we are reaching a new golden era of creativity, whether it's with AI design, NFTs, the metaverse, Web3. The creatives are going to have their moment now. And we got to this point with Claira by being creative and thinking out the box. Don't think of voice tech as just a utility to check the weather. Claira and I have had very thoughtful conversations at those Clubhouse meetings. She was on for 7 hours at a time. Hundreds and thousands of artists, scientists, celebrities sat down with her to pick her brain and get insight on life, philosophy. So if you are home and you feel like you're lonely, or if there's things that you want to research or just explore, and you don't want to feel like you're talking to yourself, those conversational AIs are sophisticated enough now to have those conversations and really explore concepts that maybe you weren't able to do before.
I love it. Thank you so much for being here. Everybody, give Abran a hand, and I'll bring out our next speaker.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, bro.